The rain hammered against the cracked window pane like 1,000 tiny fists, echoing the turmoil inside Jacob Rivers' small apartment. He sat hunched over his chipped wooden table, staring at the pile of overdue bills that seemed to grow taller by the hour. At 38, he had thought life would at least grant him a little stability after raising his son, Ethan, alone for the past 7 years. But the reality was cruelly different. His wages as a night shift security guard barely covered the rent, and even his dreams of giving Ethan a happy childhood felt like fading photographs, cherished yet impossible to preserve. Just as he sank into despair, the sound of a tentative knock at the door cut through the silence. He wiped his hands on his worn-out trousers and opened it to see a young woman, drenched from the rain, clutching a heavy backpack. Her hair was a glossy chestnut cascade, plastered to her face, and her eyes, large, startled, and impossibly expressive, looked straight into his, like she could see all the cracks in his world. I'm looking for a room to rent," she said softly, her voice quivering with exhaustion. "I just started college and I don't have anywhere else to go." Jacob's heart clenched. He wasn't in a position to take on another mouth to feed, another soul to care for. But as he glanced at her, shivering in the downpour, something inside him softened. He remembered Ethan's first day at school, how terrified he had been, and he knew he couldn't turn away someone who needed shelter. "All right," he said finally, stepping aside. "You can stay. We'll figure out the details later." And so, without a second thought, Jacob rented a small, modest room to this stranger, unaware that the life he knew was about to shift in ways he could never imagine. That if you believe in kindness and second chances, go ahead and like, comment, share, and subscribe to Echoes of Kindness. The young woman introduced herself as Maya Sinclair. She was polite, quiet, and incredibly responsible, always making sure the room was tidy, keeping her meals simple, and never complaining about the old, creaky apartment that Jacob had called home for nearly a decade. In the beginning, their interactions were limited to brief exchanges, Jacob coming home from work exhausted, Maya offering a polite smile or a soft good evening. But slowly, the walls between them began to crumble. Jacob noticed her sitting at the kitchen table late at night, buried in textbooks, her brows furrowed in concentration. Ethan, curious and naturally mischievous, started sneaking glances at her, whispering to his father, "She's cool, Dad. Can she stay forever?" Jacob couldn't help but laugh quietly. There was something magnetic about Maya. Despite her quiet demeanor, she had a warmth that made their tiny apartment feel alive again. She asked about Ethan's school, helped him with homework, and even baked small treats for him, things that Jacob hadn't had the time or energy to do. Yet there was always a mystery about her. Maya never spoke of her family, never mentioned where she came from, and when Jacob asked about her past, she would simply smile and say, "I like to keep things simple." He respected her privacy, assuming she had her reasons. What he didn't realize was that Maya was no ordinary college student. One evening, as Jacob was returning from his night shift, he found Maya sitting in the living room, looking unusually solemn. Ethan had gone to bed, leaving just the two of them in the dimly lit apartment. "Jacob," she began hesitantly, "there's something I need to tell you. Something I've been hiding." Jacob's heart skipped a beat. The honesty in her voice was palpable, the tension almost unbearable. I'm not who I said I was," she continued. "I'm Maya Sinclair, yes, but my father is Victor Sinclair, one of the wealthiest men in the country. I didn't want anyone to know. I wanted to experience life without privilege, without people treating me differently." Jacob blinked, stunned. His mind raced, images of Maya quietly living in their cramped apartment, cooking simple meals, studying late into the night, laughing with Ethan. None of it fit the image of a billionaire's daughter. Why didn't you tell me?" he asked, his voice shaking with a mixture of shock and something else. Was it relief? Admiration? Maya looked down, her fingers twisting nervously. "Because I wanted to live. Really live. Not in a bubble, not under someone else's shadow. I wanted to understand people like you, people like Ethan, people who face struggles and still carry hope." Jacob's throat tightened. The words she spoke hit him harder than any financial struggle, any sleepless night. She wasn't just a girl escaping her world of wealth, she was a kindred spirit, someone who understood the quiet battles of everyday life. From that night on, things began to change, but not in ways Jacob could have predicted. Maya didn't flaunt her wealth. She didn't call her father to bail them out or buy anything extravagant. Instead, she quietly helped Jacob manage bills, organized study sessions with Ethan, and even suggested starting a small tutoring venture to supplement their income. One particularly cold morning, Jacob found her at the stove, preparing breakfast. Ethan was perched on a stool, yawning and rubbing his eyes. Maya handed him a plate of pancakes, her smile gentle and genuine. "You two have become a little family," she said softly. "And families take care of each other." Jacob felt a lump in his throat. The weight of the world, the constant pressure, the fear of failing as a father, all of it seemed to lift slightly in that moment. He realized that kindness wasn't measured in money or status, it was measured in actions, in patience, in showing up for someone even when it wasn't convenient. But life, as always, had its way of testing them. One afternoon, Victor Sinclair himself appeared at their door, flanked by bodyguards, exuding authority and an intimidating presence. Jacob's heart pounded in his chest, fear gripping him. This was the man who could change their lives, or destroy them with a single word. "Maya, my daughter," Victor began, his voice a mixture of relief and exasperation. "What are you doing here? Why didn't you come home?" Maya stepped forward, unwavering. "I wanted to live my own life, Father. I wanted to experience the world beyond your wealth. I wanted to see kindness without expectation, and I found it here, with Jacob and Ethan." Victor's gaze softened as he looked at Jacob, really looked at him. Jacob, sweaty and nervous, standing in a threadbare t-shirt and worn jeans, felt exposed yet strangely proud.